Yeah, it is. Ooh. Hell yeah, it is. Fuck yeah, dude. And then I like the fact that it stretches further than just one specific part of Egypt. Like, look how decked out this place was. People forget that shit. How advanced everything was. Hey, you know what's a dope theory that's going around? Well, it's not going around, but it's been around for a bit. Um, it's actually that the Sphinx is I want to say 10,000 years older than we originally thought. And by it being 10,000 years older than we originally thought, they've people think it's a that there was a civilization before. I'm all hungry and shit, all out of whack. I'm trying to. Sorry about that. Damn. I'm not even trying to mess with y'all. But no, basically what they were trying to say is that there was a civilization, advanced civilization before the Egypt that we know, and that it actually got damaged during the meltdown of the ice, during the defrosting of the ice age and the Great Flood. And the Great Flood came around and actually destroyed a lot of the world we know today. Um, what's it called? Check it out on Joe Rogan's. I'll post the link. It was through Joe Rogan's podcast. Exactly. And they but what's dope is I'm happy you read it. Okay. So now that you got that point, well the trippy part was there's a there's this geologist. Well, I don't even think he's a geologist. I just think he just goes around studying natural disasters. And he basically, long story short, he showed that the Great Flood was real. Because what happened is you can go through. Canada was all covered in ice. He said, I guess his studies showed that it was like a 2 mile high ice just block that covered all of Canada and most of North America and whatnot, or most of Northern America, and that shit instantly melted and caused the Great Flood, and it just completely obliterated North America, and that's why they said all the woolly mammoths died right away because there were woolly mammoths alive during our time. Well, when I say our time frame, humans along the lines that like us, and all of a sudden he just disappeared. And then you find like mass graves of them of woolly mammoths, and they were saying that it's because they were all herding together and whatnot, and died all together at once. It was pretty cool. And then they even went on a road trip looking at different landmarks, showing different boulders and stuff that came from different parts of the country. That there's no way they could have got there unless it was from a great flood. And it was just cool hearing the archaeologist, historian, journalist theory, and then seeing the guy come with the science behind it, showing different landmarks and even using miniature examples and models, like how the land looks after a flood or after a big rain. And then he just said, now push that to a larger scale. And and what I like so much about that theory is it explains a lot of how as a species, how all of our buildings and our structure, our math, our everything just popped up around the same time. All over the world at the same time, you've seen people building pyramids, castles, blah blah blah, whatever you want to say. It all started popping up around the same time. Now, unless we were all communicating with each other, which possible, wasn't like we didn't know the world was the world, but it's a trip. It was a good theory, and I like the fact that they had a lot of it was two different schools of thought, and when you put the information out together from both of them, it overlaps and it makes sense. I love that. If it makes sense, it's hard for me to argue with it. That's why my bows are so weak. Well, shit. Oh, dude. Well, okay. And I love that you brought that up. Um, the whole trippy part is the moment they agree to that shit, the moment they agree to that, it changes everything about our world and the way we structure it. Yeah, but think about okay, and Joe Rogan actually talked about it perfectly. He straight out said, "Imagine how. Think about this. How many degrees you've handed out in this science, and how many doctorates and master's degrees and whatnot you've given out on something that's wrong. Like it's wrong. There's no way around it. You've given out all this information, all this data. You've done all this work and research, and but like you said, it's okay. It's wrong. It's okay to be wrong. Let's figure it out from here. But yeah, it changes everything. Like, shit, even on the last podcast, I don't know if you heard it, I made a joke to Travis, and I always wanted an alien just to come down and stand next to the greatest world leader and do a big press conference. Just huge press conference, every camera in the world. And then I just wanted whatever it is to stand there, take a laser gun, and create a human. Just point at the ground and presto changeo, fucking human. Because it would knock the bottom out of everything. Our structure, our religion, our day. It would change everything. It would. All it would take is something that's simple, which not necessarily simple, but just one moment to undercut all of our history, all of our thoughts, and it would change everything. Like you said, it would change everything, and it completely it's such a trip that's how fragile our world is, and I think that's why I always wanted it to happen because there's no way something for us to be as smart as we are, as advanced as we are. Yeah, dude, because like it's it just it's such a trip how fragile we are. I even I talked to my mom about it before, and I said I wonder how we're gonna look at how people from 1,000 years from now are gonna look back at us. You know, look at the way we look at people from 1,000 years ago.
Man to man, Bayek, there is much you have yet to understand. Man to man, I need an answer. I must take the measure of you first. Rescue the masters and recover the scroll. And then I will know if you're the man that I claimed you to be.
Yeah. Oh, dude. And that's what I'm saying. Like we think we're so advanced, but once again, we're fragile in thought, fragile in culture, we're fragile in everything. It's everything's holding on by strings. It would not take much to cripple society as we know it. Not saying we wouldn't survive, because clearly, based, I mean, and I'm using that info that I got from those two researchers, but based on what they came up with, we've survived 1,000 times worse. And then the cool thing is, I like the fact that it matches up with all different religious stories from around the world. That's always been an interesting topic too. Like what makes my God is more right than yours.